In October 2014, while Betty and I were in Great Britain, a lot of points of interest involved British railways. The first interesting railway site we saw was in the town of Carnarvon. I couldn't believe my good fortune. A West Highland train was pulling out of the station, pulled by a Garratt-type steam locomotive. Garratts are unique in that they're articulated with a boiler in the middle and sections with cylinders and drive wheels both front and rear. I never thought I'd see one in operation.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living is full. Maybe it's not too late.
The West Highland Railway wasn't the only Welsh railway we saw. On another day, our coach took us to Portmaydog, where we boarded a steam train on the Flestonog Railway.
Life's a bitter shame. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train.
The locomotive was an interesting double fairly type, with a cab in the middle and a smoke box at each end. It's sort of the push-me-pull-you of steam engines.
One person's condition to rule and control. The media sells it, and you live the role. Mental wounds still screaming, driving me insane. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train. I know that things are going wrong for me. You got to listen to my words.
The train chugged its way around sharp curves and up steep grades, giving us a chance to see spectacular Welsh mountain views on its way to Blaenau Festiniog at the far end of the line. Just cannot bear. I'm living with something that just isn't fair. Mental wounds not healing. Who and what's to blame? Going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train. On the same day, we saw this little Hunslet 040 ST pulling a train on the Llanberis Lake Railway.
Time on the Stratha
The most significant collection of railway equipment we saw was at the National Railway Museum in York, which claims to be the largest such museum in the world. We started with the royal carriages. The royals have been traveling by train ever since 1842, and we saw a collection of coaches and their furnishings that included everything from fancy china to a bathtub.
Started out as an engine boy, barely out of school. I spent long days.
The Gladstone and the spinner, so nicknamed because although it could go 90 miles an hour, its huge wheels would sometimes spin, were used for express passenger trains from 1880 until the 1920s. Number 13,001, the Crab, was used for both freight and passengers, including pulling the royal carriages. This M7 class 044 passenger tank locomotive was built in 1897 and remained in service until 1962. The freight yard contained this milk wagon and one that could ripen bananas as they traveled.
Time to learn. I have had long years as an engineer.
The Duchess of Hamilton Streamliner was built in 1938. Streamliners have a shroud placed over a normal steam locomotive. This one proved to make the engine difficult to repair, so it was removed in 1947. The engine remained in service until 1964. Notice how big its wheels are.
The spring of the year 03, a time of floods and gales.
The museum goes from old to new. This is a reproduction of Stephenson's rocket from 1829. LNER number 66 Aerolite Class X1244T was built in 1869. Japan launched the bullet train in 1964, and the Channel Tunnel train began service in 1994.
Does not fail my boys.
Built for China, this locomotive is the largest article ever exported from Britain.
Care my boys who had trundles over the hill.
British steam locomotives were different from ours. They typically don't have headlights, bells, or cowcatchers. American engines had the cylinders and connecting rods on the outside like this one, but many British engines had inside cylinders driving crankshafts on the axles like this one. I think it was to make the locomotive narrower to fit into narrower rights of way using the same track gauge.
I was 58 in the year.
This Pullman parlor car called the Topaz was built in 1913 and is very elegant.
Long Strathairn to volunteer by the score. I was 62 back in 39 when Hitler threatened the Poles, and the wide-eyed sons of the fallen ones rode to Pell to parade once more. Time will not fail my boys, time will never be still, and time does not care my boys who had trundles over the hill. But I don't despair, my child, I've a time to learn. I have had long years as an engineer on the train from Perth to Lochend.
Platform 9 3/4 reminded us of Harry Potter. The Mallard, like the Duchess of Hamilton, is a streamliner built in 1938. It's a Pacific Class 462, covered over with a streamlined shroud. This locomotive set the steam speed record of 126 miles per hour. Imagine my delight to be seated in its cab. On the final day of our trip, Betty and I boarded a modern train for a short ride to the town of South Queensferry in order to see the famous Firth of Forth Bridge. A firth is a bay, and the Forth is a river, so this bridge goes over the bay where the Forth River opens onto the North Sea.
Dr. Beeching closed them down, and children play where the track once lay, and the ghost trains all that will sound.
The bridge opened in 1890 and was the longest single cantilever span in the world for the next 27 years. It still holds the number 2 slot. It was and still is considered an engineering marvel. It carries a double track for 1.6 miles, 151 feet above the Firth.
I have had long years as an engineer.
I think the crowd was there to see the bridge, but Betty claims they wanted to see the people rappelling down one of its piers. To make things even more spectacular, a rainbow formed over the bridge as this train went across.